Well, the OneSoccer player pundit hangout is taking a bit of a twist today, as it is our first OneSoccer player swapped out for a coach and pundit hangout. That's what I'm trying to say. Self-isolation is really getting to me, as we are very happy to have Jeff Paulus on the program, speaking, I'm sure, for all coaches, reflecting all of their thoughts perfectly over the next 45 minutes to an hour. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and hanging out with us today here on YouTube. As always, we also have Kurt Larson, the so-called OneSoccer expert, and we will get Jeff's thoughts on that, as well as Oliver Platt. So thank you all very much for being here today. How is the social isolation going? I know personally I'm losing my mind by the minute. So I'm hoping that if this goes on much, much longer, I find a way to cope a little bit better than I am right now.
I'll take this one. It's my father-in-law literally just delivered a soup. So that's the level we're at now. We're in social isolation here, day 5 or 6. I forgot what it is, but now I'm having soup delivered by my father-in-law. So
don't knock it. You know, with the grocery stores the way they are, I'd like to have some soup delivered personally.
Yeah, no, and I had a weird interaction last night with Skip the Dishes, and I guess it's a normal interaction now, but ordered some Greek food just so I wouldn't have to cook. I am a really good cook, by the way, just so people know. But a delivery guy pulled up, and I go out on the porch to meet him, and then he just puts the bags on the porch and then like basically scatters away as quickly as he can. It's like it's just those constant things that remind you about how strange things are right now, and they are strange.
Yeah,
they are. How you actually, we're good here.
I can only really echo what you guys have said. I'm not enjoying this at this point. It's been a week and a half since we were kind of sent home, and it's not fun.
Well, I see, Jeff, you're breaking the United Kingdom's lockdown rules right now, just sort of casually hanging out.
That's right.
In the open air stadium. But otherwise, how are things going for you in Edmonton?
Yeah, they're good. Let me say also, you chose the right coach for the first one because there'll be no cliches today. So that's good. Yeah, you know what? I'm staying busy. You know, we're doing online training sessions with the players on how we're going to play football this year tactically. So it's building out those online classes, basically. I'm still doing my MBA, so you know I'm here working on that, and I've got a gym in the basement. So my days are full, and so I'm okay at the moment. You know, players they're busy doing what they can at home as well. So we're making the best of it.
How are you finding? Sorry, Adam. How are you finding life without social media, Jeff? Because I'm kind of envious.
Yeah, it's good. Listen, I mean, you know, I am. I've got two strong political opinions to be on Twitter right now, especially in Alberta. So it's best that I behave. You know, there was and I'm also a bit of an animal advocate. You know, and I still remember the NASL days when we had a hunter come into Alberta and he killed a bear with a spear. And so I went off about this. And then, of course, Under Armour sponsored this particular hunter. So I went off about Under Armour. And without realizing at the time or forgetting to realize at the time that they were also our ball sponsor for the league. So I have to be careful on social media. So right now is a good time for me not to be on it.
I know Rob Gale also at one point recently claimed to be off of social media. And I thought he was until he liked a post from me yesterday. So Rob, thank you for liking a OneSoccer post. But what I'm getting at is, are you actually completely off social media? Are you Rob Gale off social media?
No, I am. So I'm able to, I can still look at Twitter.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous.
Yeah, that is. So, but you know what? It's how I get, it's the only way to get some information half the time for me is, but I'll have a look, but I don't partake in it at all. I don't log in, you know, so that's, I don't have my own account anymore.
You're not tweeting from a burner or anything like that?
No, I'm not. No, I am not actually. No, again, because I give myself away. You know, I love the word Muppet and I can't help myself. And then also I used to shoot off about St. Albert traffic and all these things. So for me to go back, I'm a giveaway because I have my words that I always use, so they'll know who it is. But no, I'm good to be off of it for the most part. I mean, I gave it Facebook a long, long time ago. And also, you know what? You just get tired of reading negative things about yourself all the time. So maybe if we start winning, I'll go back on it.
Good idea.
That's what it'll take. Just to switch the conversation from a little bit less lighthearted to a little more serious, one of the things I wanted to ask you in particular, Jeff, having you on today, is just your experience with serving in the armed forces, and I think for people who either aren't from a military family or have a close friend or have ever served themselves, you might not understand just how important that the national defense and protecting Canada is to what the armed forces does. So I'll ask you, how are you evaluating how Canada is doing in the world? And we'll follow up with another question after, but I'll start there.
Yeah, just in terms of our reaction to this coronavirus, or just in general?
Well, based on how political you just admitted to getting, let's stay on with coronavirus for now.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually, I mean, I don't hide my love of this country. You know, I take offense to, you know, when people kind of, you know, here in Alberta, we've got, you know, there's this movement about wanting to leave Canada. I take offense to that, having served our armed forces, having served every Canadian. So I always take offense to when I hear about people wanting to separate the country and things like this. I'm never a fan of that. So maybe I've just lost a couple of fans for our club by saying, I don't know, but I think we're doing well. I think you look at the poise of Justin Trudeau at the moment, and the way that he's kind of standing up and being very Canadian about this. You know, I know they're going to pass this bill here very soon, but you compare the way that he's trying to manage this situation, which is, you know, obviously new for everybody, and it's a world crisis, versus what's happening down, you know, in the States. Sorry, Kurt, with that gong show of a leader down there. So he gets passing marks for me, you know, and I just hope that Canadians kind of, you know, taking care of this country is everyone's responsibility, not just the armed forces. They get paid to do it, and they certainly are willing to sacrifice themselves for doing it. But taking care of our country is for every single person in this country. You know, to see people kind of ignoring these rules, to still going to the beaches, doing these things, I think they're selfish. I think we all have a part to play, and honestly, you know, I heard the word kind of Emergencies Act and all these things kind of thrown out the other day as possibilities, and I'm all for it. If people can't have the discipline to kind of do what's best for this country on their own, then I'm all for the government taking the steps that they've talked about. So, yeah, I mean, I take a lot of pride in the armed forces here in this country, and the people that lead this country, regardless of what party they're from or what party I support.
Yeah, I'm with you 1,000% there. Obviously, every situation is unique, and this, especially in my lifetime, is something unlike anything I've ever seen before. But what kind of other situations can you personally remember where there was this sort of sense of unknown and the need to be a lot more responsible socially in a time like this? Does anything come to mind?
Oh. Well, we've had those different viruses in the past, I guess, that, you know, were pretty scary. Maybe not so much in Canada, not compared to the rest of the world. So, but you still kind of saw those as maybe what could come. You know, it's amazing. You see, I think the two of the top 10 things watched on Netflix this past week in Canada were Pandemic and what was the other, Outbreak or Contagion or something?
Contagion, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, but certainly those kind of were a precursor to what could happen on a global scale, which what we're seeing now. You know, I think back in the day, obviously, when you look at the, you know, the war in Iraq and some of those situations where you thought maybe this could actually, you know, kick off into something bigger. There's probably a bit of stress around those periods, but this is just unique because it's out of our control. There's nothing you can really do. You can take every step you want to take, go to a grocery store at 8 a.m, you know, and touch something that someone else had touched, you know, 10 minutes earlier. And, you know, again, it's out of your hands. So this is a tough one because it's so hard to control it. But I don't think I've ever experienced anything like this.
Jeff, I know that there are CPL players who are concerned. A few of them, you know, have openly reached out to me just to, if I could provide them an update on when I thought the league would start, or have you heard anything? So I'm just wondering, from a coach's perspective, you know, how are you taking care of your players, maybe on an emotional side? And, you know, we know these players aren't necessarily Major League Soccer players who might be, you know, financially completely stable and be able to sustain being away from the game for 3 to 6 months. So what have you told your players just to provide them some level of comfort?
Yeah, well, for starters, Kurt, you know, we try to reach out to our full team every day, somehow have some sort of communication. You know, this is so vital for the players that aren't from Edmonton, that might feel quite alone right now, isolated in their apartment by themselves. So we have to make sure that we kind of keep in touch. But the biggest thing is just, you know, we do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we do a 10 o'clock in the morning, which is the usual training time for us. We do an online tactical session with the players, and that takes 45 minutes just to finish one before this meeting. So that's the way to get us all together, get us all talking, get our minds on football. Every night at 6:30 at night, our strength conditioning team gets on, our sports science team, they get on Zoom as well with the players, and they put the players through a home workout. Everyone's on video watching each other doing it. So it's a way that we can try to bring ourselves together without being together. But it's just that constant checkup to make sure that the well-being is good. You know, there's the assurance that right now every player's under contract, every player's being paid, you know, and there's those assurances as well, because of course it'll come down to, you know, our families and how do we take care of our families, and that'll be on their mind, because there's bigger things than football, you know, right now, and they have to be assured that we're going to take care of that for them. So this is all happening, but you know, other than that, it's really, you know, it's just that, I think it's just that constant engagement, Kurt, that daily engagement, you know, to make them know that they're still part of a team and they have a family here that's you know, is taking care of them.
Ollie, anything further to add before we move on?
I think we can move on, right? Let's lighten things up a bit.
And I know just the way to do it.
This is the most serious pundit hangout yet.
Yeah,
I know. And it's
good though, because
really
it's nice to be able to strike the balance about having the conversations, what is important right now, what's not important, and how we can all look after each other. And from the sounds of it, you and your staff are doing a fantastic job. So props to you. But in the vein of getting a little bit lighter and having some fun, a few months ago we were discussing in the office. Kurt was in a mood one morning, and we were trying to figure out what it was. And it was because he decided he wanted to change his Twitter handle. And this was a big deal. This took up like an hour and a half of time. We were discussing larceny. Kurt Lars one, I think, was another one.
No, one Kurt.
One Kurt was
one Kurt
as well.
Kurt was taken, and I'm going to give Josh Cloak some credit for that one. From Josh Cloak from The Athletic is the one who sent that to me, but unfortunately it was taken. So I looked back to one of my favorite moments during the CPL's inaugural season, which was Coach Paulus, I think on multiple occasions, referring to us as the experts at OneSoccer. And anybody who watches the panel understands that I am the expert of experts on the panel. So then why not change my handle to OneSoccer? I think it was a little bit too inside for the broader kind of Canadian soccer fans. So they thought I was just, you know, being extremely arrogant, which people who know me know I'm actually not arrogant. But really, I was just having some fun based on what Jeff had decided to call myself, Oliver Platt, and others on the panel when maybe we were being fairly critical at the time. So that's how the OneSoccer expert came about. But I guess this opens it up to Jeff, maybe, you know, giving us to wrap up season one as we head into season two. Is there more? Are you being critical of us, or are you just having fun with us? And what do you think of the experts at OneSoccer?
Yeah, well, I mean, that came about, I think that was, you know, around probably after the first 6 games or so. And I obviously didn't know what I was doing the first 6 games. So I was looking to you guys for the post-game.
I think I was there for the debut, actually. I think it was the York 9 Canadian Championship game.
Oh, could have been, yeah.
I was in the press conference, yeah.
I know. You know what? I think that was, was that the one at York?
Yeah, when Amiobi got that goal called off at the end.
Yeah. So I think, well, that could have been because I needed to use you guys as my kind of outlet, my release, because if I said what I wanted to say about the officiating, that would have been fine, suspended for a year. But yeah. So yeah, officiating. My goodness. But no, you know what? Listen, I love the banter. I love the back and forth. You know, at the end of the day, I'm my own worst critic. You know, as far as my coaching and decisions I made last year, and so when I kind of have this back and forth, you know, I mean, for me, it's a bit of fun as well. You know, this is, who knows how long I'll have as a head coach. You know, you don't control your own destiny in this occupation. And so as long as I have this role, I want to enjoy it as best I can, even in the bad times, and try to pull the good out of it. You guys, I enjoy the banter back and forth. I think it's, you know, it lightens a game. It's, at the end of the day, this is still a game that we play. You know, this isn't life or death, and I want to have some fun. And you know, you guys allow me to do that, which is great. So the banter is good. I enjoy it. I say things in, you know, in jest. I do appreciate what you guys are saying there, but the analysis is good because you know, when I look at right after a game, or when I look at my team, of course, my emotions involved in my analysis. When other people look at my team and make comments, it's from no emotion. It's just from what they see. So I always I take in everything that I hear and that I read, and ignore most of it and do what I want anyhow, but I still take it in. So no, I enjoy it. Yeah, we'll keep that going.
And now that you don't have social media, you have an outlet whenever you need to. So there you go.
Exactly.
Let's talk a little bit more about FC Edmonton. For a thousand reasons, and without sort of beating this to death, this is so unusual in terms of preseasons, and certainly more extreme for leagues that were in action and they're now on hiatus. But for the CPL, you guys were really just starting to ramp up. The season was right around the corner, then everything was put on pause. So before all of this came to fruition, where were you feeling about your team, and with a recent signing yesterday as well that we'd love to hear your thoughts on? What are you feeling about FC Edmonton right now today?
Well, the guys will probably laugh because no matter what, I always think my players are the best, and we've got a good side. And but we were excited. We had about 8 sessions in when we had to call it quits. We were excited what we're seeing. We're changing the way that we're playing this year. The players have all bought in. We brought in. Again, I didn't think we needed wholesale changes at this club. I appreciate how far back in the standings we were. Everybody was to the top 2 teams. But, for me, I just, for example, Cavalry, I look at our games against them, and yes, we never beat them once, and that's, I own that. But the game they beat us 3-0, we were the better side for 68 minutes. And for the first 35, absolutely played them off the park like no other team had, I think, at that point of the year. And the game that we drew 0-0 there, we should have won that game. We could have tied the game if it wasn't for Carducci. The first game we lost 1-0 there. So I didn't think that. I don't personally believe that we're as far behind as Cavalry as people say. They had a nice head start. They had the roster built the year prior, a good piece of it, and they had good chemistry coming in. Tommy is a good coach and did a good job. So I'm not looking for an excuse on that. I'm not taking away credit. But I just didn't feel that we had to make wholesale changes. What we've done here is we've kept a good core, and we've created a better balanced roster. We brought in more left footers. Duran Lee is a great addition. Duran Lee's not a central defender. He's actually more of an attacking type defender. He loves to get on the ball and dribble. When he played in the Ontario League One, he was more of a central midfield player that liked to dribble with the ball. His highlights are all of him dribbling and going past players. So we'll use him in a role. He gets to do that. And Ramon Soria was brought in to be a central defender. He'll move to the back line, which puts him on his left foot, which gives us now the ability to play out. So you've got Ramon on the left playing out to Duran Lee, left footer as well. But actually we had 2 right footers. Mele Tanguia, probably the most underrated central defender last year in the league. No one talked about him because we had Amir.
Talked about him a little bit. I've talked about him a little bit.
Yeah, you have, Kurt. Actually, you have given him credit, and I appreciate that. He'll go to his right foot, and of course we bring Amir Didic into the lineup, who's for me the best defender in our league. So we're really happy. Eric Zetterberg we brought in is honestly he'll remind people of a young Becker. His ability to get on the ball and see a pass, and his passing range is phenomenal. Really delighted. And then of course the addition of these attacking players, Handsome Boakai, Royal Tito, and now Kevin Ailman. These 3 give us basically, you've got 3 kind of Borges type players, that now get to join up in our attack. And I'm delighted to see what they can do to this league. And of course Easton. So we're really happy where the team was at. It sucked that we had to stop, but we just can't wait to get going. But we're really excited about this roster. We feel we're so balanced. We've got about 8 left footers now in this squad. Balance across the pitch, competition for places. Edem Artazi's an underrated player that no one talked about, but at the end of the season, the last 3 games, you saw his ability just to get on the ball and dribble past players. He's a big part of that. Alan Zeeby as a holding midfield player. And I say this, everyone knows I absolutely love Nick Ledgerwood. And but Alan Zeeby kind of really, pushed him a bit in that position in 2017 at FC Edmonton, because Alan Zeeby's a very good holding midfield player because he's got this energy level that's quite high. He's a good ball winner. He'll move back to that position for us. So we're just happy where we're at.
Jeff, just reflecting back on last year. So from where I'm sitting, one of the positives for you was I think you got maybe much more than you would have thought you were going to get out of guys like Ngaro. And then we saw Prince Amanda come on later in the season and show what he has to offer. And these young players who maybe you thought would take a bit of a back seat in 2019 because you had so many veteran players that I think had proven themselves at one point at, a good level.
Right.
What I'm trying to ask is, did some of the veteran guys not play up to the standard you expected them to last year? And did that ultimately hurt you the most?
Yeah, I think, so I brought in some, so obviously, some of the senior pros I brought in are very good players. And there's a combination of things there, Kurt. I think that, a new league. Some of the players I brought in hadn't played, and maybe you look at some of the players that hadn't played in about 8 or 9 or 10 months, with the NASL shutdown, so they didn't find USL teams. So we had that issue to start off with. We had some injury issues for some key players, that didn't get enough playing time due to injury. That really could have been impact players for us. But I have to take responsibility for that, and whether it was the system I tried to play, I tried to force out that 4-3-3 that maybe didn't suit the personnel at the time. So I'll own some of that, but yeah, I mean, I also underestimated the level of the CPL in year one. When you're looking at some of these players that were dominant players in NASL to come in, I just assumed they'd be a dominant player in this league, and that was inaccurate on my point, or on my part. Sorry, and so I'll wear this, a little bit. I don't want to speak too negatively about the players that came here year one, because I still do believe in every single one of them that I brought into this roster, Kurt. Last year, I wish them all, the ones we didn't retain, I wish them all the best of luck going forward. And these are good players that, and you know what it is, some players are going to be able to play for certain managers over others for some reason, or for various reasons. I might not have been a good fit for some of these players either. And so, you have to look at it that way. But yeah, now if you switch that conversation to these young kids, then yeah, I mean, we made the decision here, right from day one, that I didn't want to bring in 20-year-olds to satisfy the U21 rule. I wanted to bring in 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds, and I want to get young Canadians into our lineup, into professional football. By the time these kids are actually 20, they'll have all 3 years in the league. And that was the route that I wanted to take, and it's going to pay off. I mean, Marcus Valletta looks fantastic in preseason. Another young boy I signed, Anthony Caceres, is just, this kid's going to surprise people. Chance Carter that I brought back home. These are all ex-academy players. Chance and Anthony went to the Whitecaps. They're going to surprise people, Kurt. And Prince Amanda, another year under his belt, a bit of confidence. Hopefully we'll see what we saw from him. And of course, Easton. Yeah.
Jeff, obviously the CPL is kind of a unique beast in some ways, in that you have a salary cap, you have certain roster rules, and then you have the kind of conditions of the country with all the travel that's involved over the season and so on. What did you kind of learn, and what were you looking to build this off season in terms of the locker room chemistry and the type of characters that you need to kind of withstand this league?
Yeah, I wanted to go younger. I made that decision, right at the end of the season, to go younger. Last year, with the one thing the team had last year in the locker room was a great locker room, Ollie. The players themselves really got on, and not to say that every relationship was always going to be great with the manager, but as far as the players within themselves, fantastic. And we want to try to retain that here, where the players enjoy coming to work and enjoy each other's company. We have that, but definitely an idea to go younger. Just because, again, it is a drain on you in this country. Going to Halifax for a game is not easy. I feel for that club, because every single away match for them is a difficult one with their travel. Yeah. So because of that, though, that really made me think, yeah, we need to be a younger roster here. We need to be deeper and younger, and that's what we've done. So, but the chemistry piece is massive, especially because I mean, what it's like for any travel to go anywhere on these airlines nowadays. It can be frustrating. It can be it can be a difficult thing going from Edmonton to Halifax, or Edmonton to Hamilton. And, you need players that just have a good character about them, that can just deal with it and roll with the punches and have a laugh at the end of the day. So, yeah, we've accomplished that again this year with a really good group of players.
Mm-hmm. But is it the easiest to travel the country or travel around on Swoop?
Well, we're not traveling. They're on our jersey. But, we'll be using WestJet. Yeah,
I'm trying to give you a softball just to bring in some.
Listen, I know. There, but. I know. I'm waiting for the whole thing because, of course, Cavalry has WestJet and we've got Swoop. But I'll tell you what, though, that Swoop logo on our jersey looks fantastic. We've got when you take their logo, put it on our blue jersey, nicest jersey in the league. Definitely.
Couldn't expect any other answer. Kurt, I think you have a question for Jeff about a certain center back.
Well, it's not as much a question as it is. I just want to throw this out there, give him my line of thinking, just with, Amir Didic going on trial to the Whitecaps. For whatever reason there, it didn't work out. For me, I'm a Dominic Zator guy. Everybody knows that. I also like the left-sided player who plays next to him in Mason Trafford. And I think Daniel Crutzen is a fantastic prospect. Maybe explain to me why Amir Didic should be in my top three, because right now Amir Didic is not in my top three in terms of center backs in the CPL.
Yeah. Well, number one, a defender has to be able to defend, and quite often your central defenders have to be very good in the air, and because again, it's how many crosses per game and whatnot. So you need that dominant central defender in the air, and there is not a better aerial defender in the CPL than Amir Didic, and I don't even think it's close, to be honest with you, with his dominance in the air and defending crosses on getting on the ball. He's an attacking threat to score goals, as he's done for Canada. And Kurt, what I will say to you, though, you don't have to take my word for it. You can look at the Canadian national team senior staff, and they've all selected Demir Didic as better than those ones as well. So
I know.
I could throw that out there, but hey,
I know.
But what I'll also say though is the modern game needs ball playing center half, central defenders, and listen, every single player you've just mentioned there is a very good player. I would take any one of them on my team any day. And so when I talk about my own players, I don't mean to disrespect others, certainly. So hopefully it doesn't come across that way. But Amir Didic, I mean, he is a holding midfield player that plays as a central defender because his feet are that good. And also his distribution is better than the ones that you've mentioned. He can ping a ball 40, 50 yards on a diagonal, get it there on target all the time with pace, keeps it low. It's a driven ball. So yeah, for me, he's the one that he'd be my first pick every day.
I'll just respond to that real quick. I mean, I just thought he was a bit rash at times last year, just for me. But maybe I'm just zeroing in on a few instances. But you're right. I can't argue. You're right. John Herdman, Jason DeVos, the guys over there, they think he's the top prospect right now in the CPL. So I respect your answer on that.
All right, I'll take that.
We want to dive a little bit deeper into your experience as a manager and as a player, with questions from a little bit out of left field sometimes, and just to get a bigger picture of your experiences and your thoughts. In your opinion, who is the best player you've ever coached?
So right off the bat, I'm not going to include anyone on this year's roster. So I will create no animosity.
I think that's a condition.
Yeah. So anyone on this year's roster is not eligible for this answer. But you know what? Honestly, if I go back to my college days, coaching for Nate, I've had two players at that, and this is before the CPL, and these would both be CPL players, and I think dominant ones. But I brought in a Brazilian player one year, Thiago Silva, the year that we won nationals. Left-footed, kind of attacking midfield player, was just incredibly good, and he could do things with the ball that I've never seen before. Just a special player for me, Thiago Silva. And the other one is a local player, a local Edmontonian, Valdemar Dutra, and played for the national team at the U20 level. But this is a player that had everything: intensity, technique was incredible, but would blow you up in a tackle in a heartbeat, had that nastiness to him, but just dominant. So those two always stick out to me. And then, I guess with my FC Edmonton days, you have to look. I look at a player like a Sean Seiko, that was so gifted and skilled, that could do a lot. We had a player here, Dustin Correa from El Salvador, that was just, again, special on the ball and could do things that, in a game or in that moment that not many players possess. So I guess, top of my head, I'm thinking these are the ones that stand out for me.
Kurt, Ollie?
Well, so we didn't coach anybody, but we did play. We did play alongside my brother-in-law's here. Hold on. Hey, I'm live right now. But we did play alongside some players. So a lot of the best players that I played with didn't make it because of the Major League Soccer selection process, similar to how Canada didn't have the CPL, right? But I'll throw a name out there that people who follow Major League Soccer will know. I played with Lamar Nagel with the Des Moines Menace when I was playing in the PDL. He went on to have a pretty good career with the Seattle Sounders and eventually DC United. I'm not sure where he is now. He might be out of the game, but Lamar Nagel is a name some people should know, and I had a little run with him at the Des Moines Menace.
Nice. Well, there's not a whole lot of standout names in the Milton Keynes District League Division 2, so I'm struggling on this one compared to Jeff and Kurt. But I do get the privilege of playing on Monday nights with Terry Dunfield for OneSoccer's 7-a-side team. So I think it would have to be him.
Oh, you're reaching pretty low if you're saying that.
Great answer. Great answer.
Our CEO, Oscar, is also a very good player. Scored one of the best goals I've ever seen a few weeks ago. So he should get a mention too.
Well done.
I'm just hoping that if I stay quiet and stare long enough that I'll get a compliment from Ollie.
Adam, didn't you finish as our top scorer this year? You must have
Sure
been.
did.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I was hoping for.
There
We can
you
end the
go.
show right now if we wanted to.
Adam
Yeah,
is
take it when you
young
can.
and fast, so that gets you a long way in this league.
Yeah, especially in 7-a-side co-ed. Good stuff. Jeff, if you could design a player, aside from having world-class skill, what would be the 3 most important traits or physical attributes this player would have?
Pace, intensity, and intelligence.
That was easy.
There
That
you
was
go,
the fastest one we're
1, 2,
going to get to all day. Who is the most I'm not going to ask you for a specific name because I don't want you to put anyone on blast. If you want to be my guest, just to flip that last question on its head, who is the most frustrating player you've ever coached, or what was it about them that made them frustrating?
This is an easy one for me. So what you won't know is I also coached women's ball hockey back in my days in Halifax. And I took a team to nationals actually at Halifax. And so the most frustrating player I ever coached was not in soccer. It was in ball hockey, and it was my ex-wife. And so she is the most frustrating player I've ever coached. So there you go.
I'm just going to leave that one alone. We don't have enough time to break that one down.
So yeah, these are good softball questions for me. Trump should be able to take these questions better than he does.
No comment. Ollie.
Most frustrating. Wow, who do you want that I've watched, played against?
That you've played against, and what made them frustrating?
There was a kid I used to play. We played the same teams every season, and there was a kid who I'm sure must have known who I was and tried to get under my skin every single game we played. Just pulling my shirt, giving me a little kick here and there. I have no idea, obviously, what his name is or who he is, but that he's still in my head today. So that tells you all you need to know.
Oh, you're going to say Terry Dunfield again?
No.
So I'm going to give you the most frustrating player I've played against, and I'm going to give you the best player that I've played against. But the most frustrating, and he to this day refutes this, is Danny Cruz, former Major League Soccer player, played with Houston and I believe DC, headbutted me in a college game when we were playing UNLV. I was at Drake University. He went to ground. I didn't like it. He stood up and did one of those, as he's standing up, headbutting me from the chin. He denies that to this day, but he was a pest. He was brutal to play against. In terms of the best player I've played against, I'm going to see if you guys know this name. Vidad Ivsevic is a Bosnian international. He played at the 2014 World Cup with Bosnia. Currently plays for, I think, Hertha. I played against him in a PDL game when I was with the Kansas City Brass, and he was, believe it or not, with the Springfield, I forgot what their names were, but at the time he was going to St. Louis University, and I played against him, and he scored 4 goals on me. I was playing center back that game.
I remember him. He was at Hoffenheim, right?
He's an incredible player. I have no idea why he was at St. Louis University, because he went basically straight to the World Cup from there, it seemed.
Yeah.
What's the most frustrated you've ever been at an official in your entire life? Player, coach, anything from the time you could first kick a ball to coaching?
2014 Canadian Championship, second leg against Montreal Impact. Official, funny enough, from Calgary, big surprise. He called a handball that was never a handball in the 4th minute of extra time in a game that was 4-4 and had us going to the Canadian Championship final against Toronto FC. If the game had ended with that result, on away goals we had them. So horrendous call. The player's hands were actually locked behind his back. When how players, when they go defend, they put their arms behind their back so they don't handball. That's what happened, and the ref still called it, and it was clearly off the show. He apologized to us, a couple months later, which was great. But that's why I wasn't as impressed about this year, because we had already beaten an MLS side, and we should have been in the final as a club. But that would be it. Yeah, not that I'm bitter about it still.
Jeff, do you guys think you guys gave the referees too much grief last year? I mean, I saw a few clips of Rob on the sideline at times, and it didn't look like it was going well for the referees. So do you guys think you overreacted at times, or do you think that's just the kind of passion and fire that comes with being a coach?
So, I mean, personally, I think I was actually fairly good with the refs. There was the second leg at home against York, where I kind of made a comment thinking that we were off fair, but we were not fair about the officiating. And I probably, I maybe want to take that one back. But, you know, and I do want to take, they've got a difficult job. I don't think I was. I think that, yes, I think that the refs were scapegoat too often in post-game interviews by my colleagues and me. I'll throw myself into that scenario. But at the end of the day, though, you know, we're being asked, we've just gone through a game for 90 minutes and we're asked to do the interviews right away. And I understand that. It's not a problem, but our emotions are running, you know, and of course we at that point, if you've lost a game, you don't see all the calls that went your way. You see the one or two that maybe didn't go your way. And it's an unfortunate thing that happens, but you know, yeah. Do I think we were too harsh sometimes? But you know, listen, the officiating the officiating, the coaching, the all of that stuff all has to get better in this league. So we all have to be, I guess, big boys about it. I take a lot of criticism myself. I think my fans were cheering for me to be fired after the second game. So you've got to take it and get better, you know. So yeah, it is what it is. They get paid to do a job just as we do. So
I'll say this about the refereeing. I thought the refereeing in leg one of the final was terrible. I thought the refereeing in the return leg was very, very good. Very, very good. And I was a supporter of the referees all year. Maybe that's because I'm not on the sideline. Maybe that's because I don't really have an interest in who wins the games. I actually thought the referees performed better than maybe they were expected to. Just given the lack of professional soccer until now in the country, I thought that the referees would be, would struggle more than they did. So for me, I thought they did a pretty good job this year.
I'm with you on that, by the way, for the most part, Kurt. That was the only time I ever really, I think, was annoyed and felt the refs maybe cost us was the goal that was called back in the first leg in the Canadian Championship against York. That would have made it 3-2, which would have made our home 1-0 win more important, you know. And so that's the only time I really felt aggrieved. But listen, I made more mistakes for our team than the referees did for our team. So I'm okay with that comment you've made.
This is producer Kyle's favorite part of the show, and I know he's been waiting very anxiously for us to get there. I asked you already, Jeff, what the 3 most important traits are in a player, but I want to take it a step further. If you could pick one athlete in the world of sports outside of soccer, if they were brought up in a soccer environment, given the right training, the right experience, who do you think would be the best footballer in the world who is not currently a footballer? And we'll get Ollie and Curtin on this one too.
All right. I'm going to go with Marc Messier.
Marc Messier.
Marc Messier. Just because, not just a pure leader. You know, Marc Messier is like a Nick Ledgerwood with size. And just, could you imagine him in the middle of the park just blowing up everyone around him, you know, driving his team to win? I mean, yeah, you know, my backup answer is Usain Bolt, because you can't teach pace. You know, if you had him on your team, could you imagine the ball being your half and their central defenders would be on their 18-yard line, not to get beaten in behind. So yeah, but Marc Messier would be my guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to jostle.
Oliver, you go ahead and go on.
Kick or free kick.
I'm going. Okay, well, like producer Kyle did specify here that this is someone who was brought up playing soccer and received good coaching from a young age. So with that being the case, what I want is someone with an elite mentality, a great character guy, and athleticism that translates to soccer. So I've got 3 for you. My forward is Calvin Johnson, because I think he'd just be a Cristiano Ronaldo on performance-enhancing drugs, essentially. I think that would be. My midfielder is Roger Federer. I think with his intelligence, his kind of dexterity, durability, I think he is a pretty good soccer player, but if he isn't, then he's my answer anyway. And then my defender, I'm going back to the NFL. I have Richard Sherman. I just think his athleticism, and he's a Stanford grad, so he's a smart guy. His ability to cover any athlete, any forward in the world, they're my 3 picks.
All right. So for me, this is a ridiculous hypothetical, because I could probably pick any wide receiver in the NFL and say if he had coaching from a young age, he'd be a fantastic soccer player. So as a result of that, I'm going to go with the pick that makes the most amount of sense. A pick that makes more amount of sense than Mark Messier, for sure. A pick that makes a lot more sense than Roger Federer in the midfield. My pick is 6'9". My pick is a fit 240 pounds. My pick is a 16-time NBA All-Star. My pick is the greatest athlete in the world at the moment, and somebody who was also a top Ohio football prospect. So there's proof that he could play multiple sports. My pick is LeBron James because it makes the most amount of sense. The best athlete in the world. Why wouldn't you pick him?
Well, you just said that you could pick any number of wide receivers, and then you pick LeBron James, who's 6'9".
Well, yeah, but he has great coaching growing up, so.
No, it's fine. I thought there'd be a bit more creativity there.
That's the thing. There doesn't need to be creativity. It's an easy answer.
All right.
I'll give producer Kyle some love because this was his brainchild question and he wanted to hear the debate on it. But he was saying Chris Paul would make a very good footballer. And as I tend to do, whether you have that evidence from my five-a-side team or just have sort of gotten to hear and know me a little bit since we started, I like to take it a little bit outside the box. And with the stipulations that you have the coaching, you have everything you need possible to be successful in the game, I'm going to go with Damian Warner because with my experience in track and field, the ability to do not every sport, but the pace, the reflexes, the coordination, so many things. If he had every opportunity to be a footballer with the right training and resources, I think he'd be pretty fantastic.
Yeah, he does. It's a good thing he has better reflexes and coordination than LeBron James. Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to go basketball players, I'd just go Michael Jordan and go with the greatest basketball player of all time. So if we're going to, you can always throw that one out there.
I know.
Yeah.
What's next?
All right. Well, everyone's satisfied with everyone else's answers there, so
clearly. Let's talk about the media because we spend a lot of time ranking and critiquing players. Let's ask Jeff then to rank and critique the media, and we'll start by asking you for your three favorite soccer personalities, whether it's play-by-play, whether it's reporter, analyst, anyone in the world of soccer or football media. Who are your three favorites? Say Kurt Larson, I'm hanging up.
Yeah.
I got three too, and they don't.
You know what? I mean, Roy Keane, just dead honest, not at all politically correct. I love it. It's refreshing in this day and age to have someone just be able to say what he wants to say and not be fired for it. Jamie Carragher, Liverpool legend, and need him to balance off the other Muppet that he's with all the time. Played for United. Honestly, hey, really, any of the commentators on Saturday morning, Martin comes to mind, but any of them, because they're the voice of football for me. Every time you wake up on a Saturday and put on the TV and watch the Prem, you take anyone that's commentating there, and for me, they would just, that's football to me. So
can't argue with you on Martin.
I've got Gary Neville on my list, which I believe is who Jeff was referring to there.
That would be the Muppet, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. All right, go ahead, Oliver.
All right. Well, Neville is one. I think and Carragher does as well, and Keane too, to an extent. But I think he does a good job of being knowledgeable, but also remembering that it is entertainment, and he's there to provide a few laughs as well. He's not too serious with it. One outside of soccer I really like is Tony Romo. I'm only a very casual NFL fan, but for me, if he's on the call, then I'll probably watch that game just because I think, the level of insight he has is pretty much unmatched in North America. And again, he does it in a way that's, you can feel his enthusiasm and his love for the sport and his humor as well. So I like him. And then I was trying to think of my favorite commentator to get a play-by-play guy in there. And I think I'd have to go with the same one as Jeff, Martin Tyler in England, just being the voice of the Premier League through my whole life.
All right, I'll be quick here. None of mine are soccer related. I I have.
Yes.
Sorry. Sorry.
The question. Yes.
Was that? Is it soccer related or is any sport?
Soccer related.
Oh, I'm going any sport. I'm going any sport. I'll ever win any sport. I'm going any sport.
Soccer expert doesn't watch soccer.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think I watched more CPL games last year than anybody, any coach, anybody in the league. So I watch almost too much soccer. You're rattling me, Jeff. You're rattling me. So I'm going to go. Jason Whitlock is one of the best hosts in the States. This probably won't come as a surprise, but I'm going to go with Skip Bayless, who is one of the most entertaining pundits in American sports right now. And then I'm also going to go with the man who sits across from Skip and Shannon Sharp, because they have such a good rapport with each other that I think that's the best sports show right now anywhere in the world. So those are my three.
No Stephen A?
Oh no, I'm not a Stephen A guy. I mean,
really?
I'll watch it, but it's I watch them all. I mean, I watch everything.
Adam?
What is it? Oh, you want my three?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, since we've thrown the rules out, I mean, look, I grew up on a lot of hockey, a lot of baseball, played soccer my whole life, but it just was never the sport that I excelled at the most. So as much as I was big on it, I leaned towards the others, especially when I was in school and around them. I really enjoy Kyle Bukauskas, silent reporter, been able to build a bit of a friendship just because he's also a young reporter, and I think he brings some freshness to the game. I'm with you on Tony Romo. I think he is the best analyst in sports right now in that position. Just the way he can predict things, and I mean, they tried it with Jason Witten. They thought it would just translate, hey, you played the game too, you should be able to do it, and they proved how difficult that it was.
Yeah.
God, I know I'm gonna leave someone out and regret it, but just I guess to tie back into soccer, I already mentioned it with Jeff, but I'm Martin Tyler. He's just the best, especially as someone who tries to do the job. Nowhere near as good as Martin Tyler quite yet. Hopefully one day we can get there in my own way, but he's the guy you look up to the most.
Yeah, it's Saturday mornings, right? He's just Saturday mornings.
Yeah. And playing FIFA with your buddies too. Even then, he just everywhere where football seems to be, you hear the voice, and I think it's synonymous. What do you think, Jeff? This is an opportunity, I guess, for all of us to learn, in your opinion. What do you think that soccer pundits, not necessarily just OneSoccer, but feel free if that's where you want to take this. What do you think we get wrong as pundits? Or maybe we overlook a detail? Or where do you think we could do our jobs better?
You know what? I think the biggest thing is that sometimes you'll hear comments that, about your squad or about squad selection or this player and that way. And often these comments come without having seen what's happened in training all week. And I think that's the biggest thing is you don't have the luxury to see what happens Monday to Friday and why managers are making certain decisions and why you might have felt a certain system is better against one team than another, or a certain style of play is, so yeah, I mean, we worked, for example, against Forge, we took criticism. We beat them a game in Hamilton, and we never really deserved to win the game, I would say. They dominated possession. They had the ball so much, and we went up 1-0. And then we scored a second goal that was off there. I think it was an own goal. And so that's a game that, when you look at the stats and we were the better team, absolutely not. They were, but the game unfolded exactly the way that we had wanted it to unfold. We knew that that's a team that we were happy to let them cross the ball against us. We worked the entire week. We worked on letting them have the ball out wide, not letting Borges come inside, letting them cross the ball, letting them have it in their half, and even kind of on the outskirts of our half. And so the game plan, although it wasn't pretty, went exactly as predicted, and we got a result there. And and I understand it's not pretty or sometimes or beautiful on the eye to watch that football, but it's what we had planned on. And because no one saw the work that went in the week before to prepare for that game, then negative comments come, and things are said about the squad's poor or this or that. But, again, the players have done what they've been asked. So that would be the only thing for me, really, is just maybe understanding a bit more what happens behind the scenes and why decisions are being made.
It's a very valid point. Kurt or Ollie, any last questions for Jeff? We're getting close to the end of our time here before we get to our one last inventory check. But anything final for Jeff?
I think the big question for me is, and this goes for every CPL team, not named Cavalry or Forge, is the gap between the top two and the next five in year one was ridiculously big, like almost embarrassingly big, right? So why will that gap close this year? Why will the race for the top three, the playoff spots, be closer? Is it possible for the other five teams to improve that much in, a matter of an off season?
Yeah. Well, you've already heard my comments about how far or maybe not far behind I thought we were to Calgary at the end of the day in our head-to-head meetings. So, and I can tell you, my players don't fear playing that team. They didn't fear them last year, although we didn't beat them, and they don't fear them this year. And as far as Forge, we had 2 wins, 2 draws, or 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw against Forge. So again, I kind of have confidence that those 2 teams aren't as far ahead. I think if you look at the second season last year, Kurt, and you look at the run that York had, and I think that if the season had started in the second half, and the full season got played from the second season on, I think York would have challenged those 2 teams last year as well and would have closed some of that gap. So I don't think, listen, a lot of teams are figuring it out. Calgary had the advantage coming in because, and again, this sounds like sour grapes, and I don't mean it to be the Tommy or that organization at all. But they had the advantage where a majority of the roster just won a PDL championship together. They trained the entire off season together and then hit the ground running. And the rest of us were trying to catch up to them. And fitness was a massive factor because even in Dominican, you saw a Cavalry team that was mid-season fit, and the rest of us are trying to find our fitness levels. Forge just, great familiarity, but just a really good job recruiting. Fantastic coaching job by Bobby. So full credit where it's due, and Tommy as well. But the other teams took games off each other. If one team had found some of the consistency that the other 2 had, then you would have probably seen a third team up there. If we had been able to maintain kind of that run, that 11-game run that we had, that was quite good in the middle, then we would have closed that gap a little bit on those teams as well. We couldn't sustain it. We couldn't sustain the consistency. York's problem was consistency as well. They have some great runs and then kind of have a lull. So for the rest of us, we learned our lessons in year one. We've all added good players. Every team's gotten better. I see that every team has gotten substantially better in positions they needed to. And I again, the top 2 teams have brought in very good players, but are they significantly better than what they were last year with the players they brought in, or have they just replaced like for like? So, maybe I have to look at it that way, but we'll all close the gap.
Oliver, can I take your question?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Duran Lee is an interesting pickup for you guys. I thought he was a really good mid-season pickup by Halifax last year. Duran Lee also had other offers in the CPL, potentially even more lucrative offers, yet he decided to turn those down for Edmonton. How did you convince him to do that?
Because I told him I was going to play him where I believed he should be playing in this league, and if he wants his game to grow and get to another level, and that says more of an attack-minded player than just being a center back. And a lot of teams liked him as a center back. He can certainly play that position, but I think you limit him when you put him there because he is good on the ball. He can dribble with the ball, and early signs in training about his left foot and ability to cross the ball. We've not had that at this club since Lance Lang. So it was really just the belief in him. I talked about my belief in him as a player and that he could offer more in his game, and that I wanted to help him get there. So I think that's why he's chosen this club.
Excellent.
Jeff Paulus, 53 minutes flew by. We truly appreciate you coming on. You set the bar very high for coaches in the future to come on to our OneSoccer Hangouts. Thank you very much for your insight and just for spending the hour with us and the fans tuning in. All the best. Stay safe, stay sane over the off season. And depending on how long this goes, maybe we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep. Have a good day.
Ramon is back in the hosting chair tomorrow. Joel Waterman will be joining us to talk a little bit of his MLS experience before that season got shut down. So you want to be back tomorrow. And of course, at OneSoccer for all the latest news, announcements, and updates. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And we will speak to you very, very soon.
Hit the play out music.
Didn't have that queued up.
You're wrong about tattoos, by the way.